Black single, marries disabled Arab millionaire and gets the biggest shock of her life on her wedding day. The customer service call that changed her life started with a frustrated billionaire and a hacked crypto wallet and ended with Monica questioning everything she thought she knew about destiny. When was the last time someone's voice made you pause in the middle of your routine? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. She said yes to marrying a man she'd never seen walk, until the day he stood up at their wedding and destroyed everything she thought she knew about love. The white sand of Key Biscayne Beach stretched endlessly behind Monica as 300 wedding guests watched in stunned silence. Her designer gown, paid for by the man she'd spoken to for 4 months but never seen face to face, suddenly felt like a costume in someone else's play. The wheelchair sat empty beside the altar, abandoned like a prop that had served its purpose. Yusuf Al-Masri rose slowly, deliberately, his legs steady beneath him. No tremor, no weakness, no sign of the paralysis that had defined their entire relationship. The man who'd whispered about his limitations during countless late-night phone calls was standing tall, watching her face crumble with what looked like satisfaction. "I lied to protect you," he said, his voice carrying across the beach like a slap. Monica's bouquet hit the sand, the roses scattered, white petals mixing with grains that felt like they were shifting beneath her feet. For months of building trust, of falling in love with his vulnerability, of believing she'd found someone who needed her strength, gone in 5 words. The wedding photographer kept shooting. The videographer adjusted his angle. None of this felt real until she noticed the boom microphone hovering just out of frame and the production assistant she'd never seen before signaling to someone behind the guests. Have you ever discovered someone you loved was living a complete lie? How would you react if your wedding day became your worst nightmare? Drop a comment and let me know, because Monica's story is just getting started. Her mind raced back to their first conversation, when his frustrated voice had pulled her into his world of cryptocurrency and midnight confessions. How he'd painted himself as broken, isolated, dependent on others for the simplest tasks. How she'd fallen for the man who needed saving, not realizing she was the one walking into a trap. The guests began murmuring. Some pulled out phones. Others looked away, embarrassed to witness such a private moment being played out like theater. But Monica barely heard them. Her focus locked on Yusuf's eyes. Cold, calculating, nothing like the warmth she'd imagined during all those hours of conversation. This was the final test, he continued, his accent thicker now, more controlled. "I needed to know if you could love me for who I am, not what I appear to be." The irony wasn't lost on her. He tested her ability to love him while lying about everything he was. But Yusuf's ability to walk wasn't the real shock. It was what her son Jaden screamed next that made Monica's knees buckle and half the wedding guests reach for their phones. The customer service call that changed her life started with a frustrated billionaire and a hacked crypto wallet, and ended with Monica questioning everything she thought she knew about destiny. Monica adjusted her headset in the cramped Atlanta apartment that served as both home and office. The dual monitors cast blue light across her tired face as rain hammered against the thin windows. Another 12-hour shift at TechSecure Solutions, another night of angry customers and impossible problems. "Ma'am, you don't understand," the voice on the other end snapped. "This isn't just any account. There's $7 million in cryptocurrency that I can't access." Most customers exaggerated. Monica had learned to cut their claims in half and work from there. But something in this man's voice, the controlled panic, the way he pronounced certain words, made her sit up straighter. "I understand your frustration, sir. Let me pull up your account details and see what we're working with." The name on the screen read Yusuf Al-Masri, premium customer, multiple high-value accounts. Transaction history that made Monica's monthly salary look like pocket change. This wasn't someone calling about a forgotten password or a frozen checking account. The hackers got in through a security vulnerability, she explained, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "But there are recovery protocols we can implement. It's going to take some time. Time I don't have." His voice softened slightly. I'm sorry for snapping. It's been a long day, and this money, it's not just mine. There are people depending on these funds. For the next 2 hours, Monica walked him through security verifications, backup protocols, and system resets. But somewhere between confirming his identity and restoring his access, the conversation shifted. He asked about her background. She mentioned working nights to support her son. He shared details about his business, his isolation, the challenges of managing wealth from behind computer screens. When you're paid to solve people's problems, you learn to read voices. Monica heard loneliness in his, the kind that money couldn't fix. And despite every professional boundary she'd been trained to maintain, she found herself talking to him like a person instead of a customer. "You're good at this," he said as his accounts finally came back online. "Not just the technical stuff. You actually listen." "It's part of the job," Monica replied, though they both knew their conversation had stopped being about customer service an hour ago. "I don't suppose." He paused. "Would it be inappropriate if I asked for your direct number?" "For follow-up support, of course." Monica looked around her apartment. Jaden's school drawings covered the refrigerator. Bills stacked on the kitchen table. The constant reminder that she was one emergency away from financial disaster. This man had just recovered $7 million while she'd been calculating whether she could afford groceries and gas in the same week. When was the last time someone's voice made you pause in the middle of your routine? When did you know a conversation was changing your life? Let me know in the comments, because Monica was about to make a decision that would change everything. For follow-up support, she repeated and gave him her personal number. When the call finally ended after 2 hours, Monica stared at her phone. He'd given her his personal number for follow-up support, but they both knew technical support wasn't what either of them wanted to follow up on. She fell in love with his mind first, his voice second, and his mystery third, never knowing that the mystery was the only real thing about him. The first text came 3 days later, long after Monica had convinced herself she'd imagined the connection. "Is this a good time to talk? I have some follow-up questions about account security." Professional. Safe. Exactly what she'd expected. But when she called him back, the conversation lasted until 2 a.m. "Tell me about Atlanta," he said after they'd exhausted every possible cryptocurrency question. "I've never been to Georgia." Monica found herself describing her neighborhood. The community center where Jaden played basketball, the late-night grocery runs when the crowds thinned out. Normal life stuff that probably sounded boring to someone with his resources. "It sounds real," he said quietly. "I live in Miami, but I don't really experience it. Everything's filtered through assistance and security systems." "That sounds lonely." "It is." The admission hung between them, more intimate than anything they'd shared about family or work. Monica was still thinking about it when she finally went to bed, and again when she woke up to a good morning text from a number she was already memorizing. The nightly calls became routine. After Jaden went to sleep, after she'd finished her second job, Monica would climb into bed with her phone and talk to a man whose face she'd never seen. He told her about his businesses, his travels, the challenges of managing investments across multiple time zones. She shared stories about single motherhood, about building a life from nothing, about dreams she'd put on hold. "You're stronger than you know," he said one night, his voice soft through the speaker. "Most people couldn't handle what you're juggling." "I don't have a choice." "There's always a choice. You choose to keep fighting." What's more seductive, someone's body or their mind? Have you ever fallen for someone's voice before seeing their face? Drop a heart in the comments if you know that feeling, because Monica was discovering that emotional intimacy could be more powerful than physical touch. By the third week, their conversations had evolved beyond small talk. He described his frustration with dating women who saw dollar signs instead of a person. She opened up about her ex, about learning to trust her instincts after being let down. They talked about parenting, about responsibility, about the weight of providing for people who depended on you. "I need to tell you something," he said during their fourth week of nightly calls. His voice sounded different, hesitant, vulnerable in a way she hadn't heard before. Monica's heart rate quickened. She'd been waiting for this moment, the revelation that would explain why a millionaire was spending hours talking to a single mom from Atlanta. Another woman, a wife. Some deal breaker that would end whatever this was before it really began. I'm in a wheelchair, Monica. I need you to know that before this goes further. The relief was immediate and overwhelming. Not another woman. Not a lie about wanting something serious. Just a man dealing with physical challenges, worried about how she'd react to his limitations. I don't care about what you can't do, she said without hesitation. I care about who you are. The silence stretched long enough that she wondered if the call had dropped. You have no idea how long I've waited to hear someone say that, he finally whispered. She had no idea she was falling in love with a ghost. He painted himself as a broken prince in a tower, and she became the woman willing to climb any wall to reach him, not knowing the tower was made of lies. The first package arrived on a Tuesday morning while Monica was getting Jaden ready for school. The delivery truck looked out of place on their street. Too clean, too expensive for a neighborhood where most people got their packages left on doorsteps without signature requirements. Monica Daniels? The driver checked his tablet twice before handing over a box that felt heavier than it looked. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper that probably cost more than her monthly phone bill, was a tablet. Top of the line, still in its sealed box, with a note written in careful handwriting. For better video calls when you're ready. No pressure. E. Jaden's eyes went wide. Is this for me? It's for work stuff, Monica said, though her fingers were already tracing the smooth edges of the packaging. She'd been using her cracked phone screen for everything. Work, school research for Jaden, entertainment on rare free evenings. This tablet represented technology she'd looked at in stores but never imagined owning. That night, when Yusuf called, she thanked him carefully. It's too much, she said. I can't accept something this expensive. It's not expensive to me, he replied. And I want to see your face when we talk. If you're comfortable with that. She wasn't ready for video calls yet. Something about seeing him would make this relationship real in a way that scared her. As long as they were just voices in the dark, she could pretend this was temporary, manageable, something that wouldn't completely change her life. But she kept the tablet. The gifts kept coming. A coffee maker that brewed perfect cups with the touch of a button. Grocery delivery credits that appeared in her email without explanation. A winter coat for Jaden that he desperately needed, but she'd been putting off buying until her next paycheck. You don't have to do this, she told Yusuf during one of their calls. I want to take care of you, he said simply. Is that so wrong? When someone you're attracted to starts giving you expensive gifts, how do you tell the difference between love and control? Have you ever felt uncomfortable with someone's generosity? Comment below, because Monica was about to learn the difference between being cherished and being purchased. The gifts made her neighbors curious. The UPS driver knew her by name now. Jaden started expecting packages the way other kids expected Saturday morning cartoons. And Monica found herself checking her phone more often, not just for Yusuf's calls, but for the delivery notifications that had become part of their routine. I've never had anyone want to spoil me before, she admitted one night. You deserve to be spoiled. You work so hard, take care of everyone else. When's the last time someone took care of you? She couldn't remember. Even in her relationship with Jaden's father, she'd been the responsible one, the planner, the person who made sure bills got paid and problems got solved. The idea of someone else handling the details, someone else anticipating her needs, felt foreign and wonderful and slightly terrifying. I don't want you to think I'm with you because of what you can give me, she said. I don't think that, but I also don't want you stressed about money when I can easily help. What's the point of having resources if I can't use them for people I care about? The day he paid off her car loan without asking, Monica felt something shift. Not gratitude, possession. Like invisible chains made of gold were wrapping around her wrists. When she tried to refuse, his voice turned cold. Don't insult what I'm trying to build with us. She didn't recognize the warning for what it was. 8-year-old Jaden asked the question Monica was too infatuated to ask. Mama, why won't your boyfriend let us see his face? Monica had been careful about introducing Yusuf into Jaden's world. At 8 years old, her son had already lived through his father's abandonment, 2 moves, and enough financial stress to make him protective of their small family unit. The last thing she wanted was to bring confusion or disappointment into his life. But Yusuf had been asking about Jaden during their nightly calls, and Monica found herself sharing stories. How Jaden was teaching himself guitar from YouTube videos. His obsession with space documentaries. The way he made her laugh even on her worst days. "I'd like to talk to him sometime," Yusuf said one evening. "If you think he'd be comfortable with that." The first phone conversation happened on a Saturday morning while Monica was making breakfast. She put Yusuf on speaker and watched Jaden's face light up as this mysterious man asked about school, about basketball, about his favorite video games. "Do you really live in a mansion?" Jaden asked, the kind of direct question kids ask without embarrassment. Yusuf laughed. "It's a big house, yes, but it gets lonely sometimes. That's why I like talking to you and your mom. Why don't you just get more friends? It's complicated when you're older. Making real friends gets harder." Monica watched her son process this information with the seriousness he applied to math homework. Jaden had always been intuitive about people, picking up on things adults missed or ignored. The calls became a weekend routine. Yusuf would ask about Jaden's week, help him with homework over the phone, even play simple games that worked over audio. Monica found herself falling even deeper, seeing this man connect with her son, imagining what it would be like to have a partner in parenting instead of carrying everything alone. How do you introduce someone you've never met to your child? What red flags do kids see that adults miss? Share your thoughts below, because children often see truth that adults are too hopeful to notice. But it was Jaden who asked the questions that made Monica uncomfortable. "Why don't we ever see him on video?" he wondered aloud one evening after Yusuf had said goodnight. "He's shy about that," Monica explained. "Some people don't like being on camera. But he has a nice voice. I bet he looks nice too. Sometimes people are insecure about how they look." Jaden considered this with 8-year-old logic. "Is he ugly? No, baby. He has some physical challenges that make him self-conscious." "Like what?" Monica hesitated. She'd been so focused on protecting Yusuf's privacy that she'd never explicitly told Jaden about the wheelchair. It seemed like too much information for a child, too complex to explain without raising more questions about why that would matter. "He just moves differently than other people," she said finally. "But kids don't let things go the way adults do." "Mama," Jaden said a few nights later, climbing into her bed with his serious face on. "I had a weird dream about your friend." "What kind of dream?" "I dreamed he came to visit us. But he wasn't sitting down like you said. He was walking around our apartment, looking at all our stuff. And he seemed angry." Monica's blood ran cold. Not because of the dream, but because Jaden had never been told about the wheelchair. That night, Jaden climbed into Monica's bed with tears in his eyes. "I had a dream about your friend," he whispered. "He wasn't in a wheelchair, Mama. He was running, and he was angry." Monica's blood ran cold. Not because of the dream, but because Jaden had never been told about the wheelchair. She thought the plane ticket to Miami was for a romantic weekend, until he proposed over the phone and she realized she was walking into a web she couldn't see. Monica stared at the email confirmation on her tablet screen. First-class flight to Miami. Round-trip ticket for her and Jaden. Hotel suite overlooking the ocean. All booked under Yusuf's name, all expenses covered, all happening in 3 days. "I want to meet you," he'd said during their call the night before. "Both of you. It's time." 5 months of phone conversations, daily texts, and nightly calls had led to this moment. Monica's hands shook as she read the details. Part excitement, part terror, part disbelief that this was actually happening. "We're going on vacation?" Jaden asked, reading over her shoulder. "We're going to meet Yusuf," Monica said carefully. "The man I've been talking to." Jaden's face scrunched up the way it did when he was working through complicated emotions. "Are you nervous?" "A little." "Are you?" "Yeah, but also excited. I want to see if he's as nice in person as he is on the phone." Monica wanted to believe he would be. But something about the sudden urgency, the expensive arrangements, the way Yusuf had insisted on handling every detail without asking her input, made her stomach twist with anxiety she couldn't name. The night before their flight, her phone rang at 11 p.m., later than Yusuf usually called, and his voice sounded different when she answered, more formal, more nervous. "Monica, there's something I need to ask you before tomorrow." Her heart rate spiked. This was it. The moment he'd tell her he'd been married all along, or that this whole thing had been some elaborate joke, or that he'd changed his mind about meeting. "Will you marry me?" The words hit her like cold water. Marriage. After 5 months of phone calls and expensive gifts and getting to know each other through screens and voices. Marriage to a man whose face she'd never seen, whose touch she'd never felt, whose life existed only in stories he'd told her. "Yusuf, I know it's fast," he continued, talking over her shock, "but I've never been more sure of anything. I love you, Monica. I love Jaden. I want us to be a family. Have you ever ignored red flags because you wanted something to work so badly? When does romantic urgency become a warning sign? Drop a comment below, because Monica was about to make a decision that would change everything. "I don't understand," she said, gripping the phone tighter. "We haven't even met in person yet. That's just a formality. We know each other better than most couples who've been together for years. I know you take your coffee black because you can't afford cream. I know you sing to yourself when you're cooking. I know you cry during space documentaries because you want Jaden to reach for the stars." He was right about all of it. But knowing someone's habits wasn't the same as knowing their character, their values, their ability to be a partner through real-life challenges. "The flight tomorrow, it's not just for a visit, is it?" Monica asked, pieces clicking together. "I've arranged everything. The venue, the flowers, the photographer. Just a small ceremony on the beach. Nothing fancy, just us and a few witnesses. A few witnesses I've never met, for a wedding I didn't plan, to a man I've never seen." "You're right to be cautious," he said, his voice softening. "But sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. I'm taking one too." Monica looked around her apartment. The bills on the counter. Jaden's outgrown clothes hanging in the closet. The constant stress of never having enough, never being secure, never knowing if she was one emergency away from losing everything. Yusuf was offering stability, partnership, a father figure for Jaden, and financial security for both of them. Everything she'd been struggling to provide on her own. "I need time to think," she said. "Of course. But Monica, the arrangements are already made. The officiant is booked. If you're going to say no, I need to know tonight." The pressure felt like a weight on her chest. Not just the decision itself, but the timeline, the lack of input, the way her choice was being reduced to yes or no, with no room for discussion or compromise. As she signed the marriage license at Miami City Hall, Monica noticed something that made her hand freeze. Under previous marriages, Yusuf had written 0, but 3 months earlier, he'd mentioned his ex-wife during a vulnerable late-night call. When she asked about the discrepancy, his answer chilled her. Some marriages never legally existed. Just like some truths are too dangerous to tell. She thought she was getting married, until she discovered she was starring in a documentary she never agreed to make. The Miami airport felt like stepping into someone else's life. First-class passengers moved through security with an ease Monica had never experienced. Jaden pressed his face against the plane window during takeoff, watching Atlanta shrink below them, while Monica tried to calm the anxiety building in her chest. Yusuf had sent a car to pick them up. Not a taxi or rideshare, an actual black sedan with a driver who knew her name and had instructions to take them straight to the hotel. The luxury should have felt exciting, but instead it felt controlling, like every detail of her life was being managed by someone else. The hotel suite overlooked the ocean from the 15th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble bathroom, living room bigger than her entire apartment back home. Jaden ran from room to room, amazed by the space, while Monica stood frozen by the elegance she didn't belong in. "There's a note for you, ma'am," the bellhop said, pointing to an envelope on a coffee table. Inside, Yusuf's handwriting. "Get some rest. Tomorrow is going to be perfect. The spa appointment is at 2 p.m. Everything's been arranged. Can't wait to finally hold you. Spa appointment. Wedding dress fitting. Hair and makeup." He'd planned her entire day without asking what she wanted, how she preferred to prepare, whether she even wanted professional help with any of it. Monica's sister called that evening while Jaden was splashing in the oversized bathtub. "Are you out of your mind?" Carmen's voice came through the phone sharp with concern. You're marrying someone you've never met? I know how it sounds. It sounds insane. Monica, what if he's dangerous? What if he's lying about everything? What if this whole thing is some kind of setup? He's not dangerous. We've been talking for months. I know him. You know what he's told you. That's not the same thing. Monica walked to the window, looking down at the beach where she'd be getting married in less than 24 hours. White sand, crystal blue water, palm trees swaying in the ocean breeze. It looked like a postcard, too perfect to be real. I have to take this chance, she said quietly. What if he's everything he says he is? What if this is my shot at happiness? And what if he's not? What would you do if you discovered your most intimate moments were being filmed without permission? How far would you go for revenge? Share your thoughts below, because Monica was about to discover that privacy was just another thing she'd been trading away. The next morning, Monica woke up to voices in the hallway outside their suite. Multiple people talking in hushed tones about schedules and equipment and backup plans. Hotel staff, probably coordinating the wedding logistics Yusuf had arranged. But when she opened the door to ask about room service, she saw something that made her blood freeze. Camera equipment, professional lights, a man with a boom microphone testing audio levels. Excuse me, Monica called to a woman with a clipboard who looked like she was in charge. What's all this equipment for? The woman looked confused, checking her notes. You're the bride, right? For the Al Masri wedding documentary. Documentary? The film crew. Your fiancé hired us to document the ceremony. Didn't he tell you? Monica's world tilted. Film crew. Documentary. Cameras recording what she'd thought would be an intimate, private moment between her and the man she was about to marry. There's been a mistake, Monica said, her voice barely steady. I never agreed to be filmed. The woman's face went pale. She pulled out her phone, dialing quickly. Mr. Al Masri? We have a situation. The bride says she didn't know about the cameras. Monica couldn't hear Yusuf's response, but she watched the woman's expression change from confusion to understanding to something that looked like pity. He says it's a surprise, the woman said, hanging up. A gift. Something to remember your special day. I don't want to be filmed. Ma'am, I understand your concern, but we've already got everything set up. The contracts are signed. If we don't film today, Mr. Al Masri loses his deposit. The documentary producer handed Monica a release form as makeup artists touched up her face. Just a formality, she smiled. But paragraph 7 made Monica's hand shake. Subject agrees to potential broadcast of marital dissolution, including grounds for divorce. They were already planning for her to fail. She signed her freedom away 1 hour before walking down the aisle, not realizing the contract was designed to trap her in a golden cage. The wedding dress fit perfectly, too perfectly. Like Yusuf had somehow known her exact measurements without ever asking, without ever seeing her in person. The designer boutique in the hotel lobby had delivered it that morning with shoes, jewelry, and a veil that probably cost more than Monica's car. You look beautiful, Mama, Jaden said, adjusting his little bow tie in the mirror. He looked handsome in his miniature tuxedo, excited about walking her down the beach, proud to be the man giving her away. But Monica felt like she was wearing a costume in someone else's play. The knock on the door came exactly 1 hour before the ceremony was scheduled to begin. A man in an expensive suit carrying a leather briefcase introduced himself as Yusuf's attorney. Mrs. Daniels, I have some paperwork that needs to be signed before the ceremony. What kind of paperwork? Standard prenuptial agreement. Just protecting both parties' interests. Monica's stomach dropped. Prenup. The word that meant this fairy tale came with conditions. That Yusuf's love had legal limits. That even on their wedding day, he was planning for their potential divorce. I need time to read this, Monica said, accepting the thick document. Of course. I'll wait outside while you review it. The legal language was dense, full of whereas clauses and party of the first part terminology that might as well have been written in another language. But certain phrases jumped out at her like warning signs. All assets acquired prior to marriage remained sole property of Yusuf Al Masri. That made sense. She wasn't after his money. Spousal support limited to $500 monthly for maximum period of 6 months. Less than she made in a week at her customer service job. custody arrangements for minor children. Monica's hands started shaking. Why would a prenup include custody language unless Yusuf was planning to claim some kind of parental rights over Jaden? When does love become legal entrapment? Have you ever signed something under pressure that you later regretted? Drop a comment below, because Monica was about to discover that some contracts are designed to be prisons. She kept reading, each paragraph making her feel smaller, more trapped, more like she was signing away pieces of herself. No right to spousal support beyond 6 months. No claim to any properties. No access to joint accounts. Limited visitation rights if the marriage ended. But it was Clause 15 that made her hands shake so violently she almost dropped the papers. In the event of marital dissolution, custody of any minor children residing in the marital home shall be determined by the courts, with primary consideration given to the party with greater financial resources and stable living arrangements. Jaden. The prenup was designed to give Yusuf leverage over her son if their marriage failed. Not biological rights. He wasn't Jaden's father, but financial and legal pressure that could influence custody decisions. The attorney returned after exactly 30 minutes. Any questions about the agreement? This clause about custody, standard language for blended families, protects everyone involved. But Jaden isn't his biological child. Mr. Al-Masri will be acting as stepfather from today forward. The courts recognize step-parent relationships in custody matters. Monica felt trapped between two impossible choices: sign the prenup and risk losing legal protections for herself and Jaden. Refuse to sign and walk away from financial security, disappointing everyone who traveled for the wedding, admitting that she'd made a terrible mistake. "I need to talk to Yusuf," Monica said. "He's getting ready for the ceremony. He asked me to handle any concerns." "This isn't a concern. This is a major issue." The attorney checked his watch. "Mrs. Daniels, the ceremony begins in 15 minutes. The officiant is waiting. The guests are seated. If you're going to refuse to sign, we need to know now so we can dismiss everyone." The pressure felt like drowning. Everyone waiting for her decision. Jaden excited about the wedding. Yusuf's money already spent on flowers, photographers, hotel suites. Her return flight ticket, paid for by Yusuf, that wouldn't be honored if she backed out now. As Monica signed the final page, the lawyer whispered something that stopped her cold. "Mrs. Al-Masri, are you sure you understand Clause 15? She looked down at the paragraph she'd somehow missed, the one that gave Yusuf legal custody of any children born during the marriage, regardless of biological paternity, including Jaden. 300 guests watched her marry a man she'd never seen stand, until he rose from his wheelchair and shattered every lie they'd built together. The beach looked like something from a magazine. White chairs arranged in perfect rows, facing an altar draped in flowing fabric that caught the ocean breeze. Flowers everywhere, orchids, roses, lilies that probably cost more than Monica's monthly rent. A string quartet played softly as guests found their seats. Monica didn't recognize a single face in the crowd. "Who are all these people?" she whispered to the wedding coordinator as they waited behind a screen of palm fronds for her entrance. "Friend of the groom, I believe. Business associates. Some family from Dubai. 300 strangers watching her marry a man she'd spoken to but never seen." The whole thing felt like performance art, like she was an actress playing a role in someone else's story. "Are you ready, Mama?" Jaden asked, straightening his bow tie one more time. He looked so proud, so excited to walk her down the sandy aisle. At 8 years old, he was taking his job seriously, the man of the family, giving her away to someone who would take care of them both. The music changed. The wedding coordinator nodded. This was it. Monica took Jaden's arm and stepped into view of the 300 strangers. Camera flashes started immediately. Professional photographers move around the edges of the ceremony, capturing every angle. The documentary cameras she discovered that morning were positioned discreetly, but obviously, recording her most private moment for an audience she'd never consented to reach. And there, at the end of the aisle, sat Yusuf. He was handsome, more handsome than she'd imagined during all those late-night phone calls. Dark hair, strong jawline, eyes that found hers immediately, and held her gaze as she walked toward him. The wheelchair looked medical, expensive, the kind that cost thousands of dollars and suggested serious, long-term disability. Everything about him matched the voice she'd fallen in love with. Everything except the coldness in his eyes that she was seeing for the first time. How would you react if your wedding day became a public betrayal? What would you do if someone tested your love by destroying it? Let me know in the comments, because Monica was about to discover that some tests are designed for you to fail. The ceremony began traditionally enough. The officiant spoke about love, commitment, the joining of two lives. Monica tried to focus on the words, but her attention kept drifting to the cameras, the strangers, the prenup she'd signed under pressure an hour earlier. Do you, Yusuf Al-Masri, take Monica Daniels to be your lawfully wedded wife? Edo. His voice was exactly the same as it had been during all their phone calls, but something about hearing it in person felt different. More controlled, more calculated. Do you, Monica Daniels, take Yusuf Al-Masri to be your lawfully wedded husband? She hesitated. For just a moment, standing there in the designer dress with 300 strangers watching and cameras rolling, Monica felt like she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. But Jaden squeezed her hand. Yusuf smiled at her with what looked like genuine warmth. The officiant waited patiently for her response. I do. By the power vested in me by the state of Florida, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Yusuf reached for her hands, and Monica leaned down toward his chair for their first kiss. 5 months of anticipation, of wondering what it would feel like to finally touch the man she'd fallen in love with through phone calls and text messages. But instead of kissing her, Yusuf did something that made every person on that beach gasp in shock. He stood up, slowly, deliberately, his legs steady beneath him. No tremor, no weakness, no sign of the paralysis that had defined their entire relationship. The wheelchair sat empty beside him as he rose to his full height, easily 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the confidence of someone who'd never needed assistance with anything. The crowd erupted in murmurs. Cameras flashed furiously. Monica's bouquet hit the sand as her hands flew to her mouth. I lied to protect you, Yusuf said, his voice carrying across the beach like a slap. But Yusuf standing wasn't the real shock. It was Jaden's scream that cut through the gasps and camera clicks. That's the man for my nightmares. I turned to the 8-year-old boy pointing at the groom. He came to our apartment. Mama. He was watching us sleep. She thought he fell in love with her voice, until she discovered he'd been watching her through her own security cameras for months. The wedding guests pulled out phones, some recording Jaden's accusation, others calling people who weren't there to tell them what was happening. Monica's world split into fragments. Her son's terrified voice, Yusuf's cold smile, the documentary cameras capturing every moment of her humiliation. That's impossible, Monica said, her voice barely audible over the chaos. You've never been to Atlanta. But Jaden was crying now, pointing at Yusuf with the kind of absolute certainty that only children possess. He was in our kitchen, Mama. He was looking through your phone. The boy has an active imagination, Yusuf said calmly, as if discussing the weather. Children sometimes confuse dreams with reality. The wedding coordinator was trying to restore order, asking guests to please remain seated, reminding everyone that this was still a private ceremony. But privacy had been an illusion from the beginning. Monica's mind raced back through 5 months of phone calls, trying to remember anything that might support Jaden's claim. Yusuf knowing details about her apartment that she'd never described. His uncanny ability to call exactly when she was having difficult moments. The way he seemed to understand her schedule better than she'd explained it. Show them the cameras, someone called from the crowd. Monica turned to see a woman with short dark hair holding up a tablet. Show them what you really did. Yusuf's expression changed for the first time, a flash of anger replacing his controlled calm. Amira, this isn't the time. When is the time? The woman shot back. When she's trapped in your house like the rest of us were. What would you do if someone had been watching your most private moments? How do you rebuild trust after complete violation? Drop a comment below, because Monica was about to discover that her entire relationship had been built on surveillance and lies. The woman, Amira, approached the altar with her tablet, and Monica could see security footage playing on the screen. Black and white images of an apartment that looked exactly like hers. A man moving through the rooms, checking drawers, looking at papers on the counter. The man in the footage was walking, moving normally, and his face, when he turned toward the camera, was unmistakably Yusuf. "This is your apartment, isn't it?" Amira asked Monica, holding up the tablet. "From last month, while you were at work and Jaden was at school." Monica's legs gave out. She sank to her knees in the sand, the wedding dress spreading around her like a white stain against the beach. The timestamp on the footage showed last Tuesday, 3 days ago, while she'd been at her customer service job, believing Yusuf was in Miami, confined to a wheelchair, unable to travel. "He installed cameras in your apartment during your first week of phone calls," Amira continued, her voice carrying across the beach. "He's been watching you sleep, watching you with your son, recording your conversations with friends. Everything you thought was private." The guests were standing now, some moving closer to see the tablet, others backing away like they were witnessing something they shouldn't see. The documentary crew kept filming, capturing Monica's breakdown for whatever twisted purpose Yusuf had planned. "What?" Monica whispered, looking up at the man she'd just married. "Why would you do this?" "Because I needed to know who you really were," Yusuf said, his voice matter of fact. "People lie on phone calls. They present their best selves. I wanted to see how you lived when you thought no one was watching. And the wheelchair, a test. To see if you were the kind of woman who would run when things got difficult. To see if you could love someone for who they were inside, not what they could physically provide." The irony wasn't lost on Monica. He'd tested her ability to love authentically while building their entire relationship on deception. The security footage showed Yusuf walking through Monica's apartment, not just once, but dozens of times over 4 months. But the timestamp that made Monica scream wasn't from break-in. It was from last Tuesday, while she was at work and Jaden was at school. He still had keys. Trapped by a contract, watched by cameras, and legally bound to a psychopath. Monica had one chance to save herself and her son, and it required becoming someone she'd never been before. Ruthless. The hotel bathroom became her war room. Water running from the shower to mask her voice. Monica sat on the marble floor with her phone, frantically texting her sister back in Atlanta. "Call Child Protective Services now. Tell them Jaden is in danger." Use the word emergency 3 times. Her hands shook as she typed each message, deleting and rewriting to avoid detection. Yusuf had already proven he could hack her accounts, watch her apartment, manipulate her every move. But he made one mistake. He didn't know about the emergency credit card her sister had given her 2 years ago, hidden in Jaden's backpack. "Mama." Jaden's voice came through the bathroom door. "The man is outside our room. He's talking to someone." Monica's blood froze. She crept to the door, pressing her ear against the wood. Yusuf's voice carried through the hallway, cold and calculated. "Phase 1 is complete. The wife is secured. Now we implement containment protocol." What the hell was containment protocol? She opened the bathroom door slightly. Jaden stood there in his pajamas, eyes wide with fear. He was on a phone, he whispered. He said something about other mommies and other kids. Other mommies. Other kids. Monica's mind raced. This wasn't just about her. This was bigger. Much bigger. She pulled Jaden into the bathroom and locked the door. "Baby, we're gonna play a game, okay? We're gonna pretend we're spies, and we need to get information to the good guys. Like in the movies? Exactly like in the movies." Monica's voice stayed calm even as her heart hammered against her ribs. "I need you to help me find something very important." She opened her laptop. The one device Yusuf hadn't touched yet, because it was ancient and barely worked. But it had one thing going for it. It could record. "What are we looking for, Mama?" Proof that the bad man is lying about everything. For the next hour, while Yusuf thought she was having a breakdown in the bathroom, Monica worked. She recorded voice memos detailing every lie, every manipulation, every red flag she'd ignored. She copied the prenup to her email, sent it to 3 different accounts. She screenshot the security footage from her phone before Yusuf could delete it. Most importantly, she found something that made her hands stop shaking. The marriage license wasn't filed yet. In Florida, they had 72 hours to submit it to the county clerk, which meant, legally, she wasn't his wife yet. She wasn't trapped. A knock on the bathroom door made them both jump. "Monica, you've been in there for 2 hours. Come out. We need to discuss our honeymoon plans." Honeymoon? The word made her skin crawl. "5 more minutes, baby," she called out, making her voice sound weak and emotional. "I just need to process everything that happened today." She heard his footsteps walk away. Good. Let him think she was having a meltdown. Let him think he'd broken her completely. Monica looked at her son, this brave little boy who tried to warn her from the beginning. "Jaden, Mama needs you to be very, very brave right now. Can you do that?" He nodded, his small face serious. "We're going to walk out of this hotel tonight. But first, I need to make some phone calls to people who can help us. Real help this time." Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Room 847. Come alone. I have information about your husband that could save your life." Monica stared at the message. Another trap? Or someone genuinely trying to help? "What does it say, Mama?" She looked at her 8-year-old son, then at the bathroom door separating them from a man who'd been watching them sleep for months. Sometimes you had to choose between 2 dangerous paths, but at least this time, she'd be choosing. "It says we're about to meet some new friends, baby. Friends who understand exactly what we're going through." Have you ever had to choose between staying in a hell you know and walking into an unknown that might be worse? What would you do if your child's safety depended on trusting a stranger? Because Monica was about to discover that the text message wasn't from a stranger at all. It was from someone who knew Yusuf's playbook better than anyone, because she'd survived it herself. She wasn't his first victim. She was his 3rd wife, and the previous 2 were very much alive, very angry, and very ready for revenge. Room 847 was 3 floors up from Monica's honeymoon suite. She left Jaden with strict instructions. Lock the door, don't answer it for anyone, and if she wasn't back in 30 minutes, call 911 and ask for the FBI. The woman who opened the door looked like Monica could in 10 years. Beautiful but exhausted, designer clothes that couldn't hide the stress lines around her eyes. Behind her stood another woman, younger, with the same haunted look Monica recognized from her own mirror. "I'm Amara," the first woman said. "Wife number 1. This is Zara, wife number 2. And you're Monica, the current project." Project. The word hit like a slap. "How did you find you?" "Honey, we've been tracking his pattern for 3 years." Amara gestured to the hotel room, which looked like a detective's office. Papers covered every surface, photos were taped to the walls, and 2 laptops displayed what looked like financial records. 3 years. Zara spoke up, her voice carrying a slight accent. "He married me in 2019. Vegas wedding, just like yours was supposed to be before he changed it to Miami. Same wheelchair story, same customer service meet cute, same mysterious rich man routine." Monica's legs felt weak. "But he said you were his ex-wife. From before the accident." Both women laughed, but there was no humor in it. "There was no accident," Amara said. "The wheelchair is a prop. The backstory changes depending on what you need to hear. For me, it was a war injury. I was a veteran's daughter, so that hooked me. For Zara, it was a genetic condition because her brother has muscular dystrophy. He studies you," Zara added. "Everything you post online, every person you talk to, every weakness you have. Then he becomes exactly what you need." Monica sank into a chair. The phone calls. He always knew exactly what to say, because he'd been watching you for months before that first call. The crypto wallet thing? Staged. He probably hacked his own account just to have a reason to call your company. The room felt like it was spinning. But why? What does he get out of it? Amara and Zara exchanged a look. "Show her," Zara said quietly. Amara pulled out a tablet and swiped to a video file. "This is from the documentary crew that filmed your wedding. They sent it to us yesterday." The screen showed Yusuf in what looked like an office, talking to someone off camera. The timestamp was from this morning. "The Georgia project exceeded expectations," his voice said. Subjects showed higher resistance than predicted, but the child factor worked perfectly, moving to Phase 2 ahead of schedule. Phase 2, the off-camera voice asked. Asset acquisition. The mother's maternal instincts make her extremely compliant when the child's safety is threatened. By the time she realizes the custody clauses in the prenup, she'll be financially and legally trapped. Monica's hands flew to her mouth. He's talking about Jaden. It gets worse, Amara said. Keep watching. What about the previous subjects? Wife 1 is contained through ongoing financial dependency and social isolation. Wife 2 is currently pregnant with our second asset, another child to leverage compliance. Wife 3 will begin breeding protocols within 6 months. The tablet slipped from Monica's numb fingers. Breeding protocols, she whispered. He wants us pregnant and dependent, Zara said. Children he can use as leverage. Money he can control. Lives he can own completely. But you're here. You escaped. We didn't escape, Amara said grimly. We're still legally married to him. Still financially trapped. Still fighting court battles he pays lawyers to drag out forever. But we found each other, and we started documenting everything. She gestured to the papers covering the room. Bank records showing the same pattern with dozens of women. Private investigator reports. Voice recordings. We've been building a case for 3 years. Dozens. Monica's voice cracked. Your wife number 3 that he actually married. But we've identified at least 20 other women he's targeted, manipulated, and destroyed over the past 5 years. Single mothers, everyone. Women with children between ages 6 and 10. The pattern was so clear now it made Monica sick. He's a predator. A very smart, very organized predator with enough money to make his crimes look legal. Zara pulled out a thick folder. This is everything we have on his network. Because Yusuf isn't working alone. Monica opened the folder. Inside were photos of men who looked like businessmen, all connected by red lines to photos of women. Women who looked like her. Single mothers. Struggling. Vulnerable. It's a business, she realized. Trafficking, but legal. They identify vulnerable women, manipulate them into marriage, trap them with prenups and custody agreements, then use their children as leverage to control them completely. Some of the women disappear entirely. Others become assets in other ways. What kind of assets? Amara's jaw tightened. The kind that make rich men richer through services they can't legally purchase. The room went silent except for Monica's ragged breathing. But we're going to stop him, Zara said. All of them. Tonight. Tonight. The FBI has been building a case based on our evidence for 8 months. But they needed someone on the inside during an active operation. Amara looked directly at Monica. They needed a current wife willing to wear a wire. Monica's heart stopped. You want me to go back to him? We want you to help us save the next 20 women he's already targeted, including the pregnant 19-year-old in Houston who thinks she's chatting with a paralyzed veteran named Marcus. The photos and the folders stared back at Monica. All those faces, all those children, all those lives hanging in the balance. What would you do if you discovered your nightmare was just the beginning of someone else's? How far would you go to stop a monster if you were the only one who could get close enough? Because Monica was about to learn that sometimes the only way out of hell is to walk deeper into it first. And the wire hidden in her wedding bouquet was already recording every word. The cameras meant to capture her humiliation became the weapons that set her free. When Monica realized the documentary crew had captured more than they intended. Back in her hotel room, Monica found Jaden exactly where she'd left him. Door locked, phone in hand, brave and terrified in equal measure. But something was different. A manila envelope had been slipped under the door. Inside was a USB drive and a note from a friend. Watch this alone. D. Who's D, mama? I don't know, babe, but let's find out. She plugged the drive in her laptop. A video file opened, and suddenly she was looking at herself from 3 days ago in the hotel lobby, talking to the woman who'd introduced herself as the documentary producer. But the audio was different, enhanced. She could hear everything now. In the background, while Monica signed the first round of paperwork, a man's voice, not Yusuf's was giving instructions. Make sure you get the moment she realizes the marriage isn't legal. That'll be the money shot for the reveal episode. What reveal episode? A woman's voice responded. Episode 6. The Wives Who Fought Back. We've been building to this for 2 seasons. Monica's the perfect finale. Smart enough to figure it out, sympathetic enough for viewers to root for, and desperate enough to take real risks. Monica's blood turned to ice. 2 seasons, the video continued. More conversations, more pieces clicking into place. The documentary wasn't about her love story. It was about something called Project Honey Trap. And she was the season finale. She fast-forwarded through hours of footage. Yusuf in meetings with lawyers. Yusuf reviewing profiles of women, dozens of them, including hers. Yusuf practicing his wheelchair routine like an actor rehearsing for a role. Then she found the conversation that changed everything. Yusuf was talking to someone whose voice she recognized but couldn't place. The audience testing shows they want to see the wives win this season. Ratings dropped when Rebecca disappeared in episode 4. Viewers felt manipulated. So we let Monica expose the network. We guide Monica to expose the network. The FBI contact the sister wives, the evidence. It's all part of the narrative. She thinks she's saving herself, but she's actually giving us the most compelling television ever made. Monica's hands started shaking. Even her rescue was fake. The voice continued. What about the child? Jaden stays with Yusuf after the divorce. That's non-negotiable. We need ongoing storylines for season 3. The laptop screen went dark as Monica's hands flew to her mouth. They were planning to take Jaden. Everything, the evidence, the FBI, even Amara and Zara, was designed to make her feel powerful while they tightened the trap around her son. Mama, you're scaring me. Monica looked at Jaden, this innocent child who'd become the center of a sick entertainment empire. How many viewers were watching their suffering? How many people thought this was just television? A knock at the door made them both freeze. Monica! It was the documentary director's voice. I know you're watching the footage. We need to talk. Monica didn't answer. Her mind was racing, calculating options. The fire escape. The back stairway. The parking garage. Monica, please. I'm not who you think I am. Something in the woman's voice made Monica hesitate. Pain. Real pain. Not the calculated emotion she'd heard in the footage. My name is Diana Chun. I've been working undercover for the FBI for 18 months. The documentary is real, but not the way you think. We've been documenting everything to build evidence for prosecution. Monica crept to the door, but didn't open it. The footage you just watched, we enhanced the audio to show you what was really being said. Those conversations about letting you win, about taking Jaden, that was Yusuf talking to his business partners, not us. How do I know you're telling the truth? Because I have something that Yusuf doesn't know exists. Something that proves everything Amara and Zara told you. And something that shows you how to save not just yourself and Jaden, but 23 other families. Monica looked through the peephole. Diana stood alone in the hallway. No cameras, no crew. Just a woman who looked as exhausted and scared as Monica felt. Show me your hands. Monica called through the door. Diana raised both hands. No weapons. No recording devices. Monica opened the door slowly. I have a 9-year-old daughter, Diana said quietly. She thinks I'm making a documentary about love stories. She has no idea that every day I go to work, I'm watching predators destroy families just like ours. I've been trying to bring down this network for 2 years. She held out a tablet. This is the real evidence. Bank records linking Yusuf to 12 other men running the same operation in different states. Custody agreements designed to trap women. Financial records showing money laundering through fake marriages. Monica looked at the screen. Numbers, names, locations, all connecting back to a central hub. There are 43 children being held as leverage right now. 43 mothers who think they're trapped forever. And tomorrow morning, Yusuf is meeting with his partners to expand the operation internationally. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the only one who can get close enough to record that meeting. And because Diana's voice broke slightly. Because my daughter looks just like Jaden, and I can't let these monsters take any more children. Monica looked back at her son, then at the evidence in Diana's hands. Have you ever had to choose between saving yourself and saving everyone else? What would you do if your child's safety meant other children would suffer? Because Monica was about to discover that sometimes being a hero means walking into the monster's lair with nothing but a wire and a prayer. And the meeting Diana was talking about was happening in 6 hours in the penthouse suite directly above her head. She walked into what should have been their first night as husband and wife with a plan to destroy him, and the evidence to do it. The wire was so small Monica could barely feel it taped beneath her wedding dress. Diana had shown her how to activate it with a simple touch to her necklace. Yusuf's wedding gift to her, now turned into the weapon that would destroy him. "You look beautiful, wife." Yusuf's voice made her skin crawl, but Monica forced a smile. "I still can't believe you can walk. I mean, I'm happy, but you feel lied to." He poured champagne, his movements smooth and confident. Nothing like the careful, limited motion she'd imagined for months. "I understand. That's why I wanted to explain everything tonight before we begin our real life together." Our real life. Monica's stomach churned. The penthouse suite was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Miami Beach. But what caught her attention were the 3 men sitting at the dining table, laptops open, documents spread between them. "Monica, meet my business partners. James, Marcus, and David." The names hit her like physical blows. Marcus, the name of the man targeting the pregnant girl in Houston. David, she'd seen his photo in Amara's folder connected to 6 missing women in California. "Gentlemen, my new wife. The one who's going to help us perfect the model." Perfect the model? Yusuf's hand touched her lower back, possessive and cold. "Sit down, darling. It's time you understood what you've really married into." Monica took a seat, fighting every instinct to run. The wire was recording. Diana and the FBI were listening. She just had to keep him talking. "You see, Monica, traditional marriage is inefficient. Men spend fortunes on divorce lawyers, custody battles, alimony payments. We found a better way." James, a man in his 50s with dead eyes, opened a laptop. "Show her the numbers, Yusuf." The screen displayed a spreadsheet. Columns labeled asset, acquisition cost, annual revenue, leverage factor. Monica realized with growing horror that the assets weren't properties or investments. They were women. The leverage factors were their children. Each wife generates approximately $200,000 annually through various revenue streams. Marcus explained casually, as if discussing stocks. Controlled social media influence, targeted product endorsements, specialized services for our client base. Services, wealthy men pay premium prices for authentic experiences, David added. A real wife, a real family dynamic, complete authenticity. Much more satisfying than traditional arrangements. Monica's hand flew to her necklace, activating the wire's emergency signal. Diana had told her this would bring the FBI immediately, but she had to keep them talking until help arrived. "What about the children?" "Insurance policies," Yusuf said. "As long as we have the children, the mothers remain compliant, and the children themselves become valuable as they age. There's a substantial market for authentic family experiences." The room felt like it was spinning. They were selling children. "Monica, you're going to help us streamline the process. Your social media following, your story of overcoming struggle, your beautiful son. You're going to be our most successful recruitment tool." Recruitment. Who better to convince struggling single mothers to open their hearts than another single mother who found her fairy tale? Yusuf's smile was the most terrifying thing she'd ever seen. "Your job will be to identify targets, gain their trust, and guide them into our network." "And if I refuse?" The 4 men exchanged looks. "Monica," Yusuf said gently, "you signed a prenup that gives me full custody of Jaden if you attempt to leave without cause. You also signed documents making me his legal guardian in case of your death or incapacitation. And you're currently being treated for severe depression and suicidal ideation." "I'm not. You are now. Your medical records will reflect a history of mental illness, drug use, and unsafe behavior around your child. 3 psychiatrists have already filed reports recommending Jaden be removed from your care." Monica's breath caught. "You can't do that. We already have." The beautiful thing about money, darling, is that it can rewrite history. Your history, Jaden's future, everything. A sound from the hallway made everyone freeze. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving fast. FBI, open the door. Yusuf's face went white. How did they? The wire, Monica said, touching her necklace. I've been recording everything for the past 20 minutes. For a moment, the room was perfectly silent except for the shouting from the hallway and the sound of the door being forced open. Then Yusuf lunged for her. Monica rolled away from the table as FBI agents flooded the room, weapons drawn. The other three men were on the floor in seconds, hands zip-tied behind their backs. But Yusuf was faster than anyone expected. His hand closed around Monica's throat, his other arm wrapping around her waist, using her as a human shield. She's lying, he shouted at the agents. This is my wife. She's having a psychotic break. Check her medical records. Let her go, Mr. Al-Masri, the lead agent said calmly. We have everything we need. You have nothing. This is entrapment. She seduced me, manipulated me. We have your financial records, the agent continued. We have testimony from 47 victims. We have recordings of you selling children to sex traffickers. Let her go. Monica felt Yusuf's grip tighten. Through the chaos, she could see Diana in the hallway, holding Jaden's hand, both of them safe. The prenup, Yusuf started, is invalid due to fraud and coercion, the agent said, along with the custody agreements, the medical records, and every other document you forged. Monica felt his grip loosen slightly. He was realizing it was over. Yusuf, she said quietly, you made one mistake. What? You assumed I was weak because I needed help. But needing help doesn't make you weak. It makes you smart enough to know when you can't fight alone. She drove her elbow into his ribs and rolled away as agents tackled him to the ground. Have you ever watched evil finally face justice? What does it feel like when the monster that tried to destroy you gets destroyed instead? Because as they led Yusuf away in handcuffs, he looked back at Monica with eyes full of rage and said the words that would haunt her dreams. This isn't over. You have no idea how deep this goes. But Monica was about to discover that sometimes the end of one nightmare is just the beginning of understanding how many other people are still trapped in theirs. 6 months later, she stood in a federal courtroom not as a victim, but as the woman who exposed a network that had destroyed dozens of families and saved countless others from her nightmare. The judge's gavel hit the wooden block with a sound that echoed through Monica's chest like a heartbeat. Yusuf Al-Masri, you are hereby sentenced to 25 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. 25 years. Monica felt Jaden's small hand squeeze hers as they sat in the gallery, surrounded by other survivors. 47 women who'd found their voices again, 63 children who would grow up free. Amara sat to her left, finally divorced and rebuilding her life in Seattle. Zara was on her right, her baby daughter sleeping peacefully in her arms. The child Yusuf's partners had tried to use as leverage, now growing up protected and loved. Additionally, the judge continued, the court orders the forfeiture of all assets obtained through criminal enterprise. These funds will be distributed to the victims for counseling, legal fees, and rebuilding assistance. Monica had never wanted Yusuf's money, but knowing it would help other women escape, help other children heal, that felt like justice. As the courtroom cleared, Diana approached them. The documentary had become something neither of them expected. Not entertainment, but evidence that brought down an international trafficking network spanning 12 countries. How are you holding up? Diana asked. Better, every day. Monica looked at her son, who was drawing in a notebook, something he'd started doing in therapy to process everything that happened. Today's picture showed a woman and a little boy standing in front of a house with a big garden. We're moving to North Carolina next month. Fresh start. What will you do there? Monica smiled. Teach other women how to recognize the warning signs. Help them trust their instincts. Show them that needing help doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. She'd started a foundation called Trust Your Voice, funded partly by the asset forfeiture, partly by donations from people who'd heard her story. The first shelter would open in Charlotte in 3 months, offering not just housing but legal support, job training, and most importantly, community. Mama, look, Jaden held up his drawing. It's our new house. It's perfect, baby. But the drawing showed something else that made Monica's heart full. In the garden, there were other women and other children, a whole community of people helping each other heal. 6 months ago, she thought love meant accepting someone's lies to avoid being alone. Now she understood that real love meant surrounding yourself with people who saw your truth and chose to stay anyway. Miss Monica, a young woman, approached hesitantly. She looked maybe 19, with a baby bump and eyes that held the same mixture of hope and fear Monica remembered from her own face. I'm Sada, from Houston. I was talking to someone online, someone named Marcus, who said he was in a wheelchair, and he seemed so nice, and then I saw the news about your case. Monica took Sarah's hands gently. You trusted your instincts. That's the hardest part, but I almost, if I hadn't seen your story, but you did see it, and you're here. And you're safe. Monica looked around the courtroom, at all the women who'd found the courage to speak up, to fight back, to save not just themselves but each other. That's how we stop monsters like Yusuf. Not by being perfect victims, but by being imperfect humans who refuse to suffer alone. 3 months later, Monica received a letter that made her cry. Not from sadness, but from joy. It was from a woman in Germany who'd seen Diana's documentary, recognized the pattern in her own relationship, and escaped before signing any papers. You saved my life, the letter read, and my daughter's life. And I'm passing your story to every woman I know, because monsters like this count on us feeling ashamed and isolated. Thank you for showing us that our voices are stronger than their lies. Monica put the letter in a box with 47 others like it. Women from around the world who'd recognized themselves in her story and chosen freedom over fear. That evening, as she tucked Jaden into bed in their new house in North Carolina, he asked the question that had become their nightly ritual. Mama, are we safe now? We're safe, baby. And more importantly, we're free. What's the difference? Monica thought about that. Safe meant protected from immediate danger, but free. Free meant having the power to make choices based on love instead of fear. Safe means no one can hurt us right now. Free means we get to decide what happens next. I like free better. Me too, baby. Me too. As she turned off his bedroom light, Monica looked out the window at their street. Quiet, normal, filled with families living ordinary, beautiful lives. 6 months ago, she thought ordinary was boring. Now she understood it was a privilege. Her phone buzzed with a text from Diana. New documentary premiering next month. Voices rising. How survivors became warriors. Interested in hosting the first screening at your shelter. Monica smiled as she typed back. Only if we can make it a fundraiser. These stories are too important to be just entertainment. Already planned. Proceeds go to expanding the shelter network. That night, Monica fell asleep, not to the sound of her phone ringing with manipulative sweet talk, but to the sound of rain on her own roof, in her own house, with her own son safe in the next room. Freedom, she'd learned, wasn't the absence of struggle. It was the presence of choice. And tomorrow, she'd wake up and choose again, to heal, to help, to trust her voice, and teach others to trust theirs. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing you ever do. And sometimes saving yourself is just the beginning of saving everyone else. What would you tell someone trapped in a situation like Monica's? How do we create a world where predators can't count on victims staying silent? Hit that like button if this story moved you. Subscribe for more stories of survival and justice. Tell me in the comments, what red flags have you learned to watch for? And remember, when someone shows you who they are through their actions, believe them the first time. Monica's story proves that your voice is more powerful than any trap someone tries to build around you. Trust it, use it, share it, because every time we tell the truth about abuse, we make it a little bit harder for the next predator to find their next victim. 1 year later, Monica received a letter that made her understand the true impact of her courage. Dear Monica, my name is Emma, and I was supposed to be wife number 4. Because of your bravery, I never became a victim. My daughter and I are free because you refuse to stay silent. Thank you for saving people you've never met. Some rescues happen before the drowning even begins.